Hello, everybody. Happy Moon Day. I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to get in here, but I wanted to come and speak to you guys and speak to the divine feminine. And I wanted to speak about the importance of protecting your triple goddess, which is you as the mother, your daughter as the maiden or your child, and then the crone as your mother. Now, you know the triple God, which is related to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, women have the same thing. And since the experience is very different for both men and women, it's going to be different for us. And there's going to be certain things that you're going to want to do when you have a daughter. Now, I have two sons. I love my sons. They are no different. I love all my children equally. But it is a whole other ball game when you have a daughter. Because your daughter is essentially you. Okay? And when it comes to your families and when it comes to the way that you treat your children, the way that you treat your daughters, I don't care how old they are, it is very important because you can create scars for the next several lifetimes when you do that. And see, this is what turns into a generational hex. This is why I offer generational hex breakers and removals. Now, the hex can come from many different things. Mainly, it comes out of religion. Hey, Melanin Ram, hello. Mainly, it comes out of religion, where we're pretty much taught that women are just to serve a man. Hey, Capricorn lady, hello. This is where, men feel that women just serve the man. And anything else about you as a woman is to be ignored, and no one should listen to you because you're just a woman. Okay? And you shouldn't have anything to say. Okay? So that's part of where this stuff came from. And so what happened was with religion is that, women were so oppressed and they were so scared that they had to turn that negativity inward on themselves. And this has led to a lot of suffering of women. And I don't care if you're a woman and you're living within that curse of patriarchy and you claim that you're happy. But a lot of women are not, because your spirit is not happy. And the reason why it's so important to protect your daughter, your granddaughter, your mother, as a woman, the reason why it is so important to do that is because you can open up not only your family, but your children to all sorts of demons. Okay? And demons take advantage of ignorance. They do. A lot of the ones that we know about, they take advantage of people that are being ignorant. And they're counting on it. They're depending on you as a woman feeling bad about yourself. So if you're a woman that feels bad about yourself, you're going to put that stuff off on your child, whether or not it's a male or a female. Okay? Whether or not, what's up, Donna Lee? Said, oh, Jesus. I think Jesus approves this message. I'm not even going to lie to you. Jesus didn't hate women, but there is a lot of people that do. And they have such a deep-seated hatred for the woman that, everything about a woman, everything that is true to our nature, which is taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, taking care of other people. And then not just that, Not just that, the sky is the limit for women. It's not just about being a homemaker. It's not just about, you know, cooking dinner for your family. It's not just about that. It's about something much deeper. So you don't want to walk around as an empty shell to where you're just empty and you're giving your divine feminine daughters nothing. You're not giving them any information. You're not telling them about themselves. And essentially, a lot of our mothers sold us out. And the reason why they sold us out is because they blamed us for their difficulty. They blamed us, even though it wasn't our fault that our parents, well, actually it was kind of. Actually it was, you know, because your spirit goes through both of your parents before you are conceived, right? But the circumstances that which you came into are not your fault. You're a divine feminine with a spark of life. That's how we all started. Okay, we all started by a seed, and you grow, okay, as a seed. When you do not protect your daughters and your granddaughters, you're gonna have to face either Hecate. Her name is pronounced. I pronounce it Hecate or Hecate. Okay, and then you've got Lilith. Okay, now Lilith has been given a bad name since the dawn of time, since her whole concept came up, which, you know, Lilith has always been here because, you know, at some point women did rule this earth. At some point they did, and they had a level of control over themselves. They didn't have PMS. They had periods, but they didn't have PMS. They didn't have a lot of the diseases. And the reason why those diseases manifest in your body is because your spirit suffers. And then your physical body is going to show the signs of those symptoms, of those spiritual attacks, of that oppression. And it causes things inside of your body to not grow and to not function properly. Okay? I'll be right back. Hold on. So, what are symptoms of this? What is an example of a mother or a divine feminine that would equate to you not protecting? Number one is if you are in competition with your kids. We got a lot of women that are in direct competition with their kids. And it's not about somebody dancing. It's not about somebody, you know, living within their youthfulness. That has nothing to do with it. What it has everything to do with is when you set up your own children for some kind of downfall. Okay? And as a mother, it is your responsibility to take control of that situation. You can't get yourself so out of control as a mother. You know what? When my children do stuff bad, I take responsibility for that. You understand me? So it's about taking responsibility. And you definitely don't shun, berate, degrade, and abandon your daughters and your triple goddess. You got to stop doing that because there's no strength without that. Now, we see a lot of women doing it because they feel that they are backed up by a male to do it. So women have a tendency to do that. I've seen and heard of a lot of women who did not have good relationships with their mother. And the reason why is because there was definitely a curse. Okay. Yeah. And you know, this is the whole point of it. When you are the mother, Okay, you're the mother, and then your child is your child. You see what I'm saying? They are your daughters, and eventually when they grow up, they're not your child anymore. You know, even though there's this thing where they'll always be your baby and stuff like that, but even that is dangerous. You have got, you know, a woman and a divine feminine that does not protect her triple goddess is literally pulling up all of their children's roots. They are pulling all of the roots out of your head, out of your heart. Everything that you need to function is being destroyed. Everything. And you've got to understand the importance, because when you take care of your divine feminine and your triple goddess aspect, which is you, your child, and your mother, or you, your child, and your grandchild, it goes on and on. You know, when my daughter had a baby, that was the triple goddess aspect. And so it is my job as a woman to protect that, because if that is not protected, I know that eventually it's going to catch up with me. Eventually it's going to catch up with you. You got to take responsibility. You got to hold yourself accountable for what you did that led to that problem anyway. And you have to say, you know what? I'm going to fix it. And you cannot force your beliefs. You can't do it. You can't force your beliefs and your expectations. Your children are like flowers who are constantly growing and blossoming every single day. And if you decide to gossip, spread rumors, do all kind of crazy stuff, set up all kind of stuff, set them up with bad men, this is what your mothers are doing these days. I promise you. It's been going on. Well, not these days. It's been going on for years and years and years. Okay, to the point where you can't really make a connection with a real person beyond that, because you're so caught up in that. And when you're a mother, you got to take responsibility. You can't just say, oh, well, this, and that, and I want to make myself feel better and da 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 da. No, you got to take responsibility for what you manifested within your family. And you've got to take care of that situation. You can't let years and years go by, and you can't force somebody to be somewhere where they don't want to be. You can't do it. If your child or your daughter or your son or whoever is making a mistake, you have to let them learn from that mistake. You don't go and set up scenarios and put blocks in front of them, because you're only blocking yourself. As a mother, you are connected to your children by the cord always. So if that child suffers, you're going to have to suffer. You understand what I'm saying? So you're going to spend your life suffering because you know something is wrong with you, to the point where you can't stand your child, which means you can't stand yourself. Okay? And this goes for men and women. When you hate yourself, you're going to hate your children. Okay? When you hate yourself, you're going to hate when you hate your children, that is pretty much a huge indicator that you hate yourself. And women should not be hating themselves. They shouldn't be. They should not be hating themselves. But the reason why it's easier for you to hate yourself is because you're so afraid to fight back. You're so afraid to fight back. You're afraid to face the music. You're afraid to say, hey, I am a divine feminine, and I am not just here to lay up underneath a man. Even though we all like to do that, but that's not your only purpose. And if you choose to not walk within your divine purpose, then let your children do it. I don't want to hear about nobody saying nothing else, nothing about that. I don't even listen to that stuff. You know why? Because everything starts with the mind. And when we start speaking words, we're speaking spells on each other all the time. And when you do that, you better believe that you're going to have to suffer some karma for that. You're going to have to. You can't avoid it. Now, one of the biggest and heaviest curses that I had to remove from my family was the curse of everybody being afraid of the women of the family being married off. You want to ask yourself and look at people and look at what they do and look at their behavior. If a woman doesn't get married, then that means that the family has worked to keep that woman within the family. Why? I don't know. Why? I don't know. That's a curse. You know that? That's a curse. It's a very, very bad curse. It's the curse of, it's a part of the curse of patriarchy, because you better believe that in their books that they have written, they have already written your story for you in that book, and they are expecting for you to follow that story. They're expecting for you to follow that. They're expecting for you to buy into that and for you to believe it. This is why I was explaining to people, it's not about what you've said to me, but it's about, am I going to believe it? Okay. Donna Lee said, I'm ready to fight. I've been celibate for a year now. I'm good. Yeah. That whole celibacy thing was a mistake. I already told y'all that celibacy is not a spiritual gift. Celibacy is a curse, because your root chakra is not getting any stimulation. Okay, which means that it's going to wither. It's going to wither. Okay. And you can even tell these types of women that do stuff like that, because they'll look very, very old. And the whole point of them doing it is so that they can feed off of the child. But unfortunately, they start to look really bad. And that'll tell you a whole lot about the energy that you are working with. It makes no sense. Okay. I'm thinking about doing that. I'm thinking about doing that on Nipsey Hussle. I'll think about it. I will. I'll think about it. I can't do it today. It'll have to be like later on this week. It's too soon. They ain't even buried him yet, I don't think. I know a lot of people need comfort in that situation. Hey, Yaya Coconut, but you know, let's give the family time to grieve and stuff. You're welcome. I'll give the family time to grieve, and then I'll come and do a reading on it. Well, I can tell you right now, when you got mothers and daughters running around being jealous of each other, my daughter just got a belly button ring, and y'all done seen my stomach. I can't get no belly button ring. But I didn't feel any jealousy for my daughter. In fact, I gave her permission to do it. You know what I'm saying? Even though she's had a child, her body is gorgeous. I would never, ever try to force my daughter to eat so that she could get fat, or, you know, give her extra fattening food and stuff so that she, you know, so that she's fat and sick and can barely move around. You know, those things are not good. And y'all know what it is, because a lot of these parents, and you know what? I watch my 600-pound life, and I don't watch it because I feel like I'm better than those people. I watch it because those people are very inspirational. I love those shows. In fact, I'm thinking about ordering a couple of seasons of it, okay? Because, you know, those people are carrying a lot of weight and a lot of baggage, and the fact that they're still alive and they're still trying to make it, and they're, you know, and you can even tell because they have what is called feeders around them, and they're just feeding them every piece of crap that they can find that's going to make them fatter and fatter. If I had a family member that was big like that and they just kept asking for food, I'd tell them no. I say, I'm gonna go and get you a salad, and that's what you're gonna eat. You know, those people are carrying a lot of spiritual baggage, as a lot of us. And sometimes the more weight you got on you, the more spiritual baggage. Yeah. You can always tell a female child that hasn't been protected. You can always tell, because she'll emotionally eat and she'll hate every other female that she feels looks better than her. She got it from her mama because her mama hated her. And that causes damage. That causes jealousy. That causes you to not live within your divine, within your divinity. Okay. Okay. And we see a lot of that. We do. We see a lot of mothers hating on daughters, fathers hating on sons, saying, oh, this person is going to be a loser. And then when your child ends up a loser, you put that curse on that child. Right? You did, because you spoke it into existence and you never reversed it. So a lot of us grew up with our parents saying certain stuff to us. And, you know, they didn't teach us how to reverse it. They just taught us how to internalize it, is what they did. Yeah, they are in very deep denial. Yeah. And see, there will never be a day, even when I'm old and gray, where I would be jealous of my children or my grandchildren. Because this is that aspect. You go from a baby to a woman to a crone, and that is very healthy. And you don't necessarily have to, you know, be old and ugly or nothing like that. You know, I don't believe in old and ugly. I don't believe that. I love old people. In fact, I've always had a fascination for older people because they do have wisdom. And, you know, the older that I get, I mean, all of my children, I mean, every single day, just to have the opportunity to break that curse on my family. You know what I say to my granddaughter every day? I say, you were so pretty. You were so beautiful. You were so smart. You were so wise. And she can understand what I'm saying because she'll just start smiling at me. She'll just start smiling and cooing and talking back to me. And you know, when all of my children were babies, I would whisper in their ears when they were asleep. Every time they would go to sleep, because, you know, kids they can be a handful, can't they? And you be waiting for them to go, you know, take a nap or go to sleep. When mines would go to sleep, I would go and I would whisper all kind of things in their ear and say, you are amazing. You are loved. You are cherished. You are valued. I love you. Sweet, you know, sweet dreams. Sleep peacefully. Every single time I try to, every time I say goodnight to my kids, I tell them that I love them. And that, you know, you imagine what you can do with that. And see, I gave that to my children. And that's so powerful when you give your children love and you allow them to make mistakes without bringing it up 5 or 6 years from now. Oh, well, you dropped out of school, so you're a failure. Well, I got a GED. What's wrong with that? I scored very high on my GED. Oh, well, you know, I never had any money to send you to college, so you're a failure. You know, and so people that are in that position to where they're in that position to where they can't afford things, you've got to work even harder, and you got to be up for the challenge. Because you're supposed to be breaking that curse. It's not supposed to go through your family like an infectious disease. And that's what it's doing to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Exactly, Capricorn lady. They will tell you that, and you know what? They put all sorts of blockages inside of you. Oh, ain't no man gonna ever love you. You ain't gonna never do nothing with your life. You gonna always do this or always do that. And y'all gotta be careful when y'all seeing some of these witches out here too, because they are the aspect of a broken triple goddess. Because they'll say things like, well, you shouldn't make any money doing your spell work because you have Section 8. Well, baby, if a person is on Section 8 and they decided that they wanted to use their own power, how about the aspect of maybe that's the reason why they did it, so that they can get off of that and do what they have to do? You got to start somewhere. But we got a lot of people, they're like, oh, your parents didn't have nothing, you didn't have nothing, so you ain't gonna never have nothing. So if you were 20 years old and you made $15 an hour, they want you to be 40 years old making that same $15 an hour. And it's not going to bring you any prosperity thinking that way, talking that way, and committing those atrocities against your family. You can't do that. If you have a daughter that is a go-getter, yes, they are, Stephanie. If you have a daughter that is a go-getter that wants to go out there and get it, you should support that. You should never, ever, ever make your children afraid of crossing the street, because if your children can't cross that street, they're not going to go over and cross over to them crossroads. And so a lot of people take that into death with them. So a lot of people were actually shocked at the reading that I did for Michael Jackson. And a lot of people have been saying, well, you're describing hell. And a lot of people are saying, well, you're saying that he went to hell. And you know what? I'm not going to say that. I'm not, I think that your spirit can go through many different things. There's no final place that you're supposed to go. You travel, right? But during that time of that reading, he was in hell because his family was being attacked. His character was being attacked. And when you call somebody a pedophile, that is the worst insult that you can give somebody, because that's horrible. Somebody that takes advantage of children, come on now. That's not a good person at all, right? That's horrible. So that's what Michael Jackson was going through. And he took that into the afterlife, that fear, that suffering. He took that there with him. You don't just leave and all of a sudden, everything is fixed. No, you don't. And I don't believe that coming back and being reborn is a curse. I think that you choose it, but you just forget, or maybe it could be some kind of random act that you might do that may happen. Maybe it's random, maybe it's an intent, maybe you make that intent before you die. If you know you're going to die, you can set those kinds of goals and intent for your next lifetime. But when it comes to Michael Jackson, there were aspects of himself, of his inner child, that were not protected from his mother. It wasn't. And as an adult, those are the things that he dealt with. It doesn't matter if he loved his mother. Of course he did, but that still doesn't mean that it wasn't an issue. So many of us take that with us. We do. And it's something that stays with you a very, very long time. It's very hard to shake that when you are not under that coven of protection. Okay? When you're not under that coven of protection. But see, the thing of it is that, once you realize the real lies that folks done told you, then that is when you'll start to open up and you'll start to see what it is that your subconscious, as well as your mid-conscious and your upper conscious, has been telling you. And they all meet up at a point, and then you realize the reality of your life, and you realize, what's, the programming. So when we break generational hexes, we're breaking that code, which has kept you in chains, and nobody told you that you had to stay there. People choose that. People choose that pathway. And it's not the matrix where you lay down and you go to sleep and you can just be what you can just, you know, you just live in a fake world and stuff like that. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about at all. That concept has been expanded upon a lot of many different times since then. We have evolved from the matrix far beyond it. Okay. So people that choose to live in that, they do want to stay safe. They feel like this is safe. This is where I should be. And if I try to come out of this, then I'm going to see all kind of demons and stuff like that. No, the demons are, let me tell you something. I don't have a problem necessarily with demons as much as I have a problem with some people that you can't trust. Okay. So, you know, it all plays out, and you start to realize that, and you start to figure that out, that the devil is you. The devil is not the devil. The devil is you. And it's your mind staying so closed off and shut off. And they can program you any way they want. You know, and they're constantly doing the programming. You know, everything that has been happening to me in social media, all of those things were said to me as a very young child. All of them. Can you believe it? They were given a script by my mother. Yeah. And that's why I'm here to help you decode it. All of those evil things that are being said to me by my peers and by other people, these are things that have been said to me since I was a baby. Nobody's ever going to love you. You're ugly. You're fat. You're disgusting. I hate you. Those were the types of things that my mother said to me even when I was in her womb. These is facts. That's why she loves it when she hears someone else. It's a program. You're supposed to break free of that programming. You're not supposed to succumb to that programming to where you just, okay, well then fine, this is what I'm going to be. Yeah, it's all been said to me. It's very recognizable, but my body doesn't react to it anymore. See, I used to react by feeling sort of insecure and, you know, and I even went through paranoia quite a bit. I would be paranoid that people were looking at me, that I was funny looking, that I had some kind of scar all over my face. And my mother did have problems because my mother had a really bad car accident before she gave birth to me, and it disfigured her face. And so my mother has tried to put that disfigurement in her daughter her whole life, and she's still doing it. She's in her 60s. So if you have somebody that's doing it, and it's also been a program that has been put in a lot of us. So it, you know, literally, I mean, nothing makes me special. There's a lot of people who had parents that said nothing but negative things to them because that's all that they had to give you. But throughout the years, I had to pick up bits and pieces of the divine feminine wisdom so that I could fight against that and so that I could heal from that. So yeah, this is the reason why, you know, those are considered trigger words. You know what I'm saying? Those are considered triggers that your parents program in you. Now, my children don't have any triggers. I believe my mother was trying to program triggers into my children, though. Okay. That's because my mother had the wrong idea about the dark goddess. She thought that Lilith was an abortionist. Lilith didn't kill any of those children. She didn't kill any of those children. So it was all a mistake. And she lived her life not following her intuition. When somebody tells you something, well, the divine feminine didn't do nothing but kill all her children. And so if you have that discernment and that wisdom and that intuition, you can say, no, she didn't. But if you don't have that discernment and that wisdom, then you're going to walk in lies. You're going to walk with lies and deception. You've been deceived. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people have wasted their entire life on it. And it's because they're programmed. They can't break that programming. I have a theory sometimes when people get into accidents like that and they die, that something else can take over. So that's my whole theory. I've already talked about it and been done with it and have let it go so that I can live my life. And if you are a child of that kind of confusion, then you do have to find the higher mother in yourself. which is yourself. Your mother might be the dark side of the moon. Your mother might be a shadow self. You see what I'm saying? She may just be that negative aspect that doesn't have to play a dominant role in your life, because we know that there are people that are going to play a dominant role, or they're going to try to use that. So, you know, for example, if you get married and you know, your mother comes to your wedding and stuff, and she meets your husband, and then a year later your husband is saying everything to you that was said to you in your childhood, and every abusive thing that maybe your family told you, your cousins. You know, I remember my parents were kind of poor when they were raising me. And I remember, you know, looking like a rag doll. My parents wouldn't buy shoes. They wouldn't buy clothes. They claimed they didn't have the money. So it was a big running joke. Oh, look at your daughter. She running around here in rags. And they didn't blame my mother or my father. They blamed it on me. They said, look at you running around here in rags. So that's why to this day, there's this running joke of, oh, you're raggedy. That even before you meet me, they gonna say, what about this person? She raggedy, she can't dress, she this, she that. That was a program that was put out there so that your mother or some other demon could feel better, you know, or feed off of you. Okay, I was being fed on quite a bit as a child. I had chronic fatigue syndrome when I was a child. I had to sleep all freaking day. I couldn't even stay up. I couldn't even stay awoke. So I was constantly sleeping. And at the time, as a little child, you don't know that you're being fed on. And that's the reason why they're torturing you mentally and why they're saying those things to you. And that was the whole point, right? And then as you get older, they're saying the same thing. And they'll even tell your husband, well, you know, this is the way this person is programmed, and you must know how to do this. Otherwise, you know, and people are weak-minded. They'll take advantage of that as well. So for me, I've got this whole thing to where I'll never deal with a man that has ever spoke one word to my mother. I can't deal with you because she's already programmed you. So it's over. You see what I'm saying? And you got to put up those boundaries. Because that, you know, your mother is always going to constantly be talking to men about you. She's constantly talking to her brothers about you. She's constantly talking to your grandfather and your uncles and the cousins. And, you know, she wants them to treat you a certain way. Now, this is a bad parent. That's not a good parent that does that. Okay. People already know that. If you hear somebody talking negatively about their child, you know that that's a bad mother. Okay, especially when it's talking very negatively and very immaturely. Sometimes the daughter has to mother the mother. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's the other way around. Somehow the roles get reversed. But as a divine feminine, you have got to take care of that, or else you're going to end up suffering in the end. And I know that there's got to be some sort of suffering that you're going to have to do because you violated yourself as a woman. If you violate your child, you're violating yourself. That's what you're doing. That's all you're doing. You're doing nothing more, nothing less is violating yourself. You're speaking your self-hatred into the world and into yourself on that child. That child is a part of you. You raised it. So you did it. And so if you coming out and you complaining about everything about your kid and you're doing this, and that, you created all of that. And to be honest with you, a lot of these people will tell lies, because I got reminded that you know, there's still a smear campaign against me. It's not going to work because I've got my triple goddess intact. Okay, I don't play that when it comes to my children. So, you know, you can break the cycle and start a new path. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what the Ace of Wands is about, is when you branch off and you go, you know what? You did this. It is what it is. Peace and love to you. I hope you find some kind of peace And you can do that, but at the end of the day, when you do that and you walk away, you still having problems, ain't you? Ain't you? You still having problems. You still having emotional problems. You're still having anxiety. You're still depressed. And the reason why is because just because you moved away doesn't mean that that energy can't still affect you. Because when you move, the entity follows you. They're going to make sure that they're going to find you and they're going to follow you. And they're going to do everything in their power to try to do that to you. And you know what? You've got to protect your own triple goddess. Do it for yourself. It's not up to nobody else to do it for you. Once you become an adult, then you have to do it. Now, unfairly, you do have people going out there doing that. They call them covert narcissists. They call those covert narcissists. And what they do is they plant poppy seeds in your garden, and they put all kind of weeds in your garden. And those weeds, boy, they grow really fast and high, don't they? When you see a weed, it's all high. And see, the reason why that is being done, and see, listen, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter at that point, at that particular moment. It's all about you and how you're going to react to it. So now when they say trigger words to me, my body doesn't react. Even the trigger words that are in other hidden places, I don't react. Because that trigger is the moment of the feeding frenzy, because that's just what is happening. Okay? That triggered moment is going to set the tone for your entire rest of your day, or sometimes the next 5 or 10 years of your life. So, for example, all of my men met my mother, every last one of them. And every last one of them that I broke up with, they all said the same thing. Ain't nobody else gonna want you. You're ugly, you're fat, and nobody wants you, and I'm gonna continue to disrespect you. Well, see, those are my mother's flying monkeys. I don't have to worry about that. It's a program. They've written down all of the trigger words. They've written down a bunch of stuff. And as a mother, you can't expect for your children to come home to you when you're doing stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. And, you know, I was convinced a few years ago that my mother didn't give a damn how I came back to Kansas City, as long as even if it was in a body bag, she didn't care. As long as my bones was back in Kansas City. And I think that has something, that's actually something to do with slavery. It does. It has something to do with slavery and the slave mentality. Some of your parents already have a burial plot for you when you ain't even 5 years old. You know, some of your family members are just waiting on you to die. Does that mean that you have to die? No. You have to retrain your brain. You have to do the spiritual work required. Everything that they say to you, you flip it back around them. You flip it back around on them and you send it back to wherever it's supposed to come from or originated from. And, you know, they're so, you know, just to let you guys know, a woman is not in her divinity if she's sitting up there talking about her daughter. That's not a divine feminine. It's not. That is not a divine feminine. It is not a divine feminine when other people are able to force you to punish your child. You ever see a mother do that? If the child might be acting bad or whatever, everybody else looking at her like, what you gonna do about your child? And then the first thing that a lot of people do is they start beating the child, or either talking crazy to them or yelling at them. So a lot of times, if you're a true divine feminine, I'm not masculine at all. Somebody was saying, That, you know, that whenever I get to yelling, and whenever I get in my mood, when I'm preaching and I'm doing my thing, that don't have nothing to do with no masculinity. That is divine femininity. That is what is divine. And we all know that animals have some more divinity than human beings. We know that because what do you see in the jungle? You see the lions coming up to mess with the lioness's cubs, and she is the most feared in the jungle. I mean, literally, they'll try it, and that mama lioness is just like duck, 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 duck. You see what I'm saying? And it's not that you're protecting your children, you know, or you're supporting them in you know, if you don't agree with something, then you just don't agree with it. But that doesn't mean that you have the right as a mother to speak negative things over your child on a daily basis. Something wrong with you if you're doing that. You're not in your divinity. You're not. You gotta understand how important it is to protect your daughters. You're sitting up here waiting for men. A lot of women are waiting for men to protect them, but they don't want to protect themselves. You got to be able to protect yourself. I know that I had 2 babies and a son. I had a newborn, and then I had a 1-year-old, and then I had a 2-year-old. And I had to protect myself because nobody else would do it. And you can't expect anybody else to do it. That's up to you. The same thing with validation. Your validation comes from you. No one else. No one else can validate you. If it look good to you, then it's good. It's all about your perception. And everybody has a different perception. So if you were the child of a woman that was not living in her divinity, okay, because a lot of women think that their divinity is cooking. A lot of women think their divinity is cleaning. A lot of people think that these things, that these physical things, but it's your innate nature. It is the energy that is coming off of you and what you are conveying to that child. Listen, if you're a woman that does that, and if I catch you doing it, you don't have any credibility. Because your intent is to destroy your own daughter and your own granddaughter. That is what your intent was, and it's because you're being vengeful. Okay? There are a lot of women, the reason why they mad at you is because they mad at your daddy. And they will take that vengeance out on that child. We see a lot of women doing that these days. I don't know about you guys, but when they were attacking me, it made me hug my babies closer and tell them that I love them. Okay? That's what a true divine feminine does. She doesn't go and say, I can't stand y'all. Y'all ruined my life. Now everybody's talking about me because I gave birth to you. And then your child sitting up there looking at you like, what in the hell? Because a lot of women can't handle that pressure from that curse of patriarchy, and they fold. Well, you can't fold. It can be disastrous to your life. You were given that responsibility, and if you fail at that responsibility, the reason why you have to keep going and keep talking is because you feel bad. You feel guilty for the things that you have done, and you're only trying to cover those things up by continuously trying to make everything the child's fault. And I can honestly tell you that throughout the years, everything was my fault. I was the scapegoat of the family. I mean, they would, and they would make it like it was a joke. And I would even sometimes laugh at it. Yes, everything is your fault. They'll do that. Telling y'all what I know. And if you are a divine feminine before you leave this earth, it's a very good deal, a very good idea for you to make good with your kids, especially your daughters. There should be no mother that has not spoke to her child in 3 or 4 years. That should never happen. It was forced upon me. Y'all, I would, you know what? I'm going to write a book about it. I am going to write a book about that. And it will all be explained in that book. Okay? It will. Because it was almost like, well, you took your mother's child, which is myself, so I'm going to take your child. Is basically what they were doing. And I'm like, wait a minute, but I'm my own person. So all of a sudden you're not allowed to be your own person. You have to be the person that they want you to be, but you can't be that person. That's why you get angry. That's why you get bored. That's why you get lethargic, because you're not living within your own spirit. And you can't do that. And parents are not supposed to do that. That was a mistake. That's why we got a lot of people running around here that are confused, because your parents were not supposed to do that. They were not supposed to program you with all of this religious indoctrination. They were not supposed to program you with all of these social indoctrinations. They were not supposed to program you with mental indoctrinations. They were not supposed to do that. And I can honestly remember throughout my childhood, I was always very quiet. And the only time I would ever act out is when they were picking on me, and they teased me a lot. I suffered a lot of mental abuse. I suffered feeling separated from people. I was separated from my own cousins. Everybody had to be an agent of the narcissist, or they were so afraid of judgment from my mother. So everybody had to join in. And it got worse after her and my father split up. It got worse to the point where there would be some nights I would just be sitting there and everybody would just be talking about me in my face, shaming me. What did I do? It ain't what you did, it's what your father did. Now, is that a divine feminine? No, it's not. It's not a woman living in her divinity. This is a woman that is broken and very dangerous. Okay? And there's a lot of people that will take advantage or try to take advantage of your inner child. I don't take advantage of people when I take money for doing spiritual work for them. What makes it take what makes a person, what makes it bad is when a person won't let go. And they just won't let go. And they just keep going and going and going and going and going. You see what I'm saying? So it's just the reality of it. And when you are a woman that knows the value of protecting your daughters, then you're the most powerful woman there is. If you're a weak woman that folds and, oh, I don't want this child no more, and they say that I was looking at some stuff about, liberals and stuff. Somebody was saying that liberals believe in abortion over 18, and I kind of believe it. I'm starting to believe that because my mother did have a desire to abort me when she was pregnant with me. She did. She wanted to abort me. And I remember being aborted a couple of times before that. And it's all the chaos of your parents. If your parents were in their divinity, you don't have that problem. But there's a lot of people that did not have good parents at all, and they made it, most people, a majority of people, because parenting, instead of them going by their intuition, they went by the experts. They went by, Dr. Spock. And you know, they went by everything else except for what their intuition was telling them. And they were lied to, and they were told, well, it's going to work eventually, so just keep doing it and just keep doing that program. So my mother couldn't kill me, but throughout the years, she's tried to make me kill myself. Is that familiar to y'all? To where you just get treated so bad that you just want to kill yourself. Well, you can't do that. Kill yourself in a metaphorical way, but don't kill yourself physically. Okay? Because that's not the proper thing to do. Because it is a program. It's not about killing you. It's about trying to get you to kill yourself. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, never have I, well, I actually did have one suicide attempt. I attempted suicide before. It was years ago, years and years ago. Never have I attempted it since then, but I did attempt suicide, and I immediately threw up the bottle of aspirin that I swallowed, and I called 911, and they took me to the hospital, and they pushed that stuff out of my system with that charcoal stuff that they put in you. They feed you like a charcoal mix or something to get that out of your body. And, you know, I'm convinced it's because of the, you know, the energy that I was feeling from both of my parents to where I felt like neither one of them wanted me. That's very hard. And, you know, going through it as a child, you know, children are very resilient, but adults aren't. So this is why when you have a bad mother, she's going to come back later on in life and try to do that same program. You know, it's fake. It's just as fake as software. It's just as fake as software. And so a lot of people will say, well, and they'll definitely try to make it seem like it's everybody. Well, everybody said this. Well, who the hell is everybody? Who is all this everybody? That ain't everybody. It's not. So your rational, critically thinking brain should come into play. But see, they're trying to get in touch with that inner child, which is why they don't want you to do anything that has anything to do with being a divine woman. They want to keep you as a child. You see what I'm saying? Because that way they can still sacrifice you. Okay? And then, you know, you got to recognize it. And you can't just say, oh, well, this is harmless. You recognize it. You're not going to do like what the Menendez brothers did. You're not going to do that, because then you can end up in prison. So you're not going to do that. You got to take deep breaths and say, I am not what they say I am. Okay? Because when you got a mother that's a control freak, and literally she just wants to control you so that she can prove that your father wasn't about nothing, and that, you know, you all messed up and your daddy wasn't nothing, you know, stuff like that. You got to understand that that is a program. And what you got to do is you got to take all of that programming and you got to get that out of your head and your subconscious. And it took me a couple of years to do it. It really did. It was very, very harmful. It was very, very, it was awful. It was awful. It was awful. The attacks, the evil words, the setups, the pre-orchestrated dilemmas, the moon. You know, some of y'all, you know, if you're not divinely protected by your mother, you can think a total lie is the fucking truth. I'm telling you, excuse my language. You'll believe anything, especially if your mama's telling you that. And let me tell you something. I've seen most people not being able to break free of that, even though they may be able to make money, but it's still running through their head every single day. The same thing. You see what I'm saying? You have to be able to rise above that. But at the same time, you have to make sure that your family is protected and that you know this is not normally, not even what most mothers do in nature. You have to know that it's not normal. You have to know that sometimes our parents was just sick and bitter, and you have to move beyond that. And it's not something that you have to keep thinking about every single day. You know how I got over almost being killed by my ex? I thought he was going to kill me. I just stopped thinking about it. I put it out of my mind. I didn't hide it, but I put it out of my mind. If you were traumatized 10 years ago, you can go to the doctor and get medication, but that medication is only going to cover up the symptoms. For example, remember I told you guys that I'm trying to heal from my allergies? You can actually heal from allergies. So that's one of the things that I'm working on, is healing people of allergies. And I know that Big Pharma doesn't like that because, they're dependent on you going and buying that allergy medicine every season or even every day. You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand how important it is to protect your triple goddess, which is you, your children, and then your mother or either their children. You can't just run around here because, see, that's the easy way out. Especially in the times that we're living in right now where women are being judged. You can't be running around here talking about I'm a quasi mother. No. The times that we are living in is everybody is being tested, tried, and delivered their karma. So everybody is being tested. And when you fail that test, disaster is coming. Okay? It's so hard. Being a mother is so hard. It's not supposed to be hard, but they make it harder. It's already a huge responsibility, even if your children leave home. I remember when my daughter, throughout her entire pregnancy, I just had nothing but anxiety. Oh God, it was awful. And I was working on it and working on it and working on it or whatever. But it was really, really a hard thing to go through. But I had to be there and be strong for my daughter. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be. And you can't keep telling women to go kill their babies, because all that does is curse the womb. Okay, and we're learning that now, that a lot of people are cursed because of that. It's cursing the land, it's cursing the soil, it's cursing the air. So a lot of people want to come out of that, and positive change is happening. I know when I was pregnant with my babies, I could always feel when the baby was going inside of my uterus and it was implanting itself. I could always feel that. And I was always very, very overprotective of my children. And that's because I love myself. If you don't love yourself, you're going to let everybody and their mama just come down on your kids any kind of way. And that shows that you don't have self-love. And people know that. People know that. They're not going to tell you the truth because they want to take advantage of that. But see, with me, if I ever had a mother, and I do dark magic, if I ever had a mother that came to me and said, I want you to attack my daughter, and I want you to hurt her, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, I'm going to expect, if I had a mother that came to me like that, I check them. I say, hey, wait a minute. That's why I don't have mothers that come to me like that. I have mothers that come to me in the interest of protecting their children. And ain't nobody going to ever contact me and say, I want to kill my daughter. No, I ain't going to never have nobody come at me like that. They already know that, and you ain't going to get no lie. You going to get the truth. You going to say, sis, I'm going to say, sis, you need a generational hex remover. And you need to probably remove it from the last 3 generations. You see what I'm saying? So if a mother came to me talking that crazy mess, I say, hey, you need some help. Oh, well, my daughter is evil. Well, what did she do? And you can't even say what she did. You can't even say what she did. You know, it's the truth. I remember asking my mother about the basis of her lawsuit, and she could not tell me what it was. She couldn't tell me what it was exactly that they were doing. Well, then how do you expect to have a lawsuit then if you... Uh, it should be assumed that you shouldn't have to have a lawsuit to gain some kind of money, you know, and so that's been the consensus of my life is, you know, bad things are going to happen and then you just sue them and pray and hope that it's going to work. Until then, sit around and literally do nothing. Thank you, BR Dolly. Thank you. I have a, you know, I can be a nice person, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying not to allow people to upset me emotionally, but I know for a fact that a lot of that programming, you know, even though I don't want to hear it, I'm not going to sit and listen to it. I'm not going to sit and listen to it, but it's a test. So maybe you should sit and listen to it and say, huh, well, ain't they delusional, you know? You will never, ever, ever hear me talk negatively about my daughters, ever. You can't even pay me to do that. You can't even pay me to speak negatively on my daughters, because if I'm talking negatively about my daughters, I'm telling on myself. You're telling on yourself. You're talking about yourself. And you got the right to rise above that and break those chains. Break yourself out of that. Come out of that. Come out of that mind frame, because I'm telling you, you know, everybody and their mama, you know, especially if you had a mother that was unwed. Okay, if you had a mother that was unwed, and you know, everybody in society has said, well, you know, you're an unwed mother, and so your child is a bastard, and you know, this child is going to be disadvantaged. This child is probably not going to make it in society, probably not going to make it in this world. And this is what we do to our own children. This is what a lot of people do to their own children. And they say you're going to fail because you're not going along with the status quo. And you're trying to step outside of the box. And it's difficult for them to allow you to, you know. And this is one of the reasons why the Cancers get such a bad name, because a lot of people, we're the mother of the zodiac. But you know what? A real mother that's a Cancer. You know, I remember when my daughter, she would just run off. And I said, girl, get back up here. And I didn't have to put no leash on her, no, because, you know, they created leashes, and those leashes are good because, you know, it's a lot of children that'll just run all out in the street and stuff. But I remember, you know, she would just run all out in the street, you know, or she would run outside or whatever. And I always knew that she would come back. You know, I never was afraid, because I had faith in my ability to protect that child no matter where they're at. And if you're truly trying to protect your children and trying to protect your triple goddess, they don't have to be in the same state as you to do that. You can do that from across the country. You should encourage your children to travel. You should encourage them to do things that are beyond their mind, you know, because this is about experience. And when you don't allow your child to experience anything, you know, which is why I decided to go ahead and let my son go to school. Okay, because you know, and he's ready. He's definitely ready. You protect them as long as you can. And I know a lot of people probably ain't gonna agree with that, but it'll be a private school. You know, I like schools that teach children, you know, something other than reading, math, and you know, I want that. But then again, you know, when you think about it, you're learning, everything is learned and taught at home. So for example, you know, if you're a parent that sends your kids to school and you say, well, it was the school's fault that my child went through that, you can't blame nobody but yourself. And it's a big responsibility, it is, and most men can't handle it. They got to go all off somewhere and get drunk and be like, "Ooh, I can't handle this." And the reason why is because of that cognitive dissonance. Everything is negative. Everything is bad. Everything is going to turn out bad. Everything is going to crumble. And these are the type of spells that are being put on us by our own mothers and even grandmothers. So every woman has a responsibility to protect the women in their family. You know, and I'm talking about your immediate family. And if your other family members need some help, then you give it to them. Because you're a mother. You can't call yourself a mother if you can't do that. And, you know, even if you can't do it and all of the odds were against you, you know, you can still be a mother, but at some point you're going to have to take that responsibility. And it is very painful sometimes. It is very painful. I talked about Jocelyn Savage's parents a lot. And if you guys don't know who that is, you guys can go look it up. But I've talked about them a lot. And, you know, it hurts when your child wants to shut you out of their life. But they're doing it for a reason. And it may not always be because they're being brainwashed. They feel safe at that moment because at some point you've made them feel very, very unsafe. So a lot of times as a parent, you can literally drive your kids into the hands of a maniac that ain't no good for them. But that maniac is probably at that time more of a comfort to them than you are, because maybe that maniac allows them to be themselves for a little while. So you got to let go of the belief that you can control your kids and what they do. This is why a lot of people are stuck where they're at, because they don't know how to branch out and rise above that and expand their thinking. You know, everything has to be one way. Well, there's not just one way. There's several different ways. There's probably hundreds of different ways of living. And people choose to live how they want to live. You know, when my children get to the point where they are going to branch out, you know, because the energy from my father, who was a hermit, affected my oldest son. And so you got to get them, you know, you want to encourage them. But when they do make that move, you want to give them that encouragement, because you're blessing or blissing yourself with that moment that you do that as a parent. And there was a astrologist that was just talking about this today, about how you gotta fly your wings, you gotta spread your wings, you know, and you can do it. Don't allow that. Just know that at that moment, your mother or your father, they're confused. They're not living in their divine, they're in their divinity. They're not living in their divine purpose. Okay? They're not. And you may be able to forgive them later. But they're, you know, once you have trusted your parent with your child and they screw up, then you don't want to give them another chance to do that, because your children are you. All of your children represent your inner child. My youngest child definitely represents my inner child. He is a carbon copy. You know what I'm saying? And what it represents is, you know, the things that you went through, who you were as a child. And I always observe my son, and the way that I look at it is from that perspective, and that is what heals. That is what makes things better. Because, you know, I was a full-fledged mess when I was a child, evidently, and didn't nobody know what to do with me. So instead of them knowing what to do with me, they decided to oppress me and berate me and degrade me instead of, you know, and that's a mother's job. That's a mother's job. You know, when you see a talent within your kid, you're supposed to feed that talent. Okay. So if you feel unprotected by your mother, it's because you got a curse on you. There's a curse over the bloodline of your family. And what that curse is meant to do is to keep you right where you are at so that you can never expand beyond that. And then you'll just leave this earth just like your mother, unfulfilled. You got to break that cycle. I don't care if you even forgot about it. I want to reawaken that in many of you and say, don't be comfortable with this. Don't be comforted by that. Okay. Remember who you are. Let me give you an example. Y'all remember the movie The Labyrinth? And she was on the way to the Goblin City to destroy the Goblin King, right? And she ended up back in her room for about 5 minutes, back in her room, right? And there was one of them, you know, kind of troll ladies or whatever, and she was giving her all her dolls and stuff. And she was like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, you're back in your room and you've got all of your stuff to yourself. And she was sitting there and she was comforted temporarily by those dolls and stuff. But then she remembered who she was and what she was planning on doing, didn't she? She said, wait a minute, I've got to save my baby brother. And that movie is very symbolic of the fact that it was a female saving her baby brother. You know, women are the answer to what is going on with men. A lot of us have that answer. It's not your job to go along with him. It's not your job to placate him. It is your job to show him your divine femininity and tell him what you're going to do. This is what lionesses do every day in the jungle. It's not your job to fold and to cower down. It is your job to fight for them, because and so when she realized that, she said, wait a minute, this is all fake. This isn't real. I've got to go save my baby brother. So be careful with that, okay? Be careful with because if you haven't achieved it yet, and if they haven't achieved it, they definitely, if your mama has not bought her dream house yet, she's going to do everything in her power to screw up your dream house. Well, I didn't get it yet, so why should she get it? You ever see that? You see what I'm saying? And the world knows that. The world knows that. You know what I'm saying? The world is very, very aware of that. And anybody, so the reason why you got to protect your children is because anybody can come in and do harm to them. You ain't supposed to do that. You ain't supposed to be no mother that just lets anybody come in on your children and do whatever they want to them. You better believe that even though those men might kiss your butt, they fake and they really don't respect you. Nobody really respects that. Have you ever heard me come on here and talk any negative things about my children? Nope. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. And I'll never do it, no matter the circumstances. And we see a lot of parents doing that too, a lot of them. Because they can't take responsibility. So protect your divine feminine, and then you won't have any problems, and neither will they. Because when you protect your child, you're in retrospect protecting yourself. I protect my children just like it's me. If my children hurt, I hurt. If they in pain, I'm in pain. If they sad, I'm sad. But as a mother, I've got to give them the antidote. Don't you? As a mother, you have the antidote inside of you. You have it, but you just haven't realized it yet because you're afraid of being judged. If you're afraid of being judged, then I'm sorry, honey, they're going to judge you if you do or judge you if you don't. It don't matter. So then that's when you have to not really care and be unapologetic about who you are. You can't say, oh, I'm a divine feminine, but I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No. And I'm sorry. That's why when I'm wrong for something, I say I apologize, because no, I'm not sorry. That's a very big spell that people put on each other. You can apologize to somebody and say, hey, I apologize that any of this happened. But never tell yourself that you're sorry. Don't do that, because that takes away your power. Okay, we got so many words and in the English language that is speaking spells on each other every single day. And you've got to counteract those spells. You have to speak stuff. That's just like, guys, that, it's all kind of stuff coming in the air. You know that song by Phil Collins, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. See, all of that is coming from everybody else's brain. And then especially if they're thinking about you, it creeps in your house. So at night, that's why I listen to I either listen to a shaman, a Buddhist chant, or either because the frequencies out there, and yeah, they can travel even faster by phone. So if somebody picks up an iPhone, that's an iPhone. I meaning the eye, the all-seeing eye. So that person can emit and transmit even faster to you. So that's why you got to have something to counteract it. And it is sounds and frequencies. Even if you don't want to sage your house every day, because that can be very tiring. Even if you can't sage your house every day, you can use frequencies to counteract that stuff, because that's what they're using is frequencies. And it's the frequency of the human body. It's the frequency of the word. It's the frequency of the intent. And if you're sensitive like me, you can pick up on it. Now, for me, I did spell work to where I don't feel everything like that. I can't do that no more, because all that does is tear you down. But what I did was I still wanted to recognize it. I wanted to recognize it with my mind and my eyeballs. So I started to take advantage of all of that Gemini and all of that other stuff that was in my chart, because there's not just one aspect of anybody. There's several, sometimes even dozens. Okay. So if anybody tells you not to protect your child, or your child is bad, and I saw this and I saw that, and those people are just trying to take advantage of you. And the fact that you don't have your protection up, the fact that you don't understand that the first line of defense is you, women. You know why my children are still safe, even though they sent out martial law on my family? Because I had an intent to protect them from anything out there that was meant to do harm to them. For some reason, there was a huge sickness in my family that ran through it. And you could tell that it was a program, to the point where my daughter's sister, her half sister, was telling her that she was going to go to foster care. So for some reason, there was this big to-do about, we're going to get Jamila's kids in foster care. No, you not. That was what they wanted. They said, we want your kids in foster care. No. Them kids got a mama. Them kids got a mama that love them. And I had to fight. And it's respect. You get respect when you can go through that, and you can hold your head up high, and you can say, you know what? I dealt with that like a G, seriously. Because if you falter and you fold, then that could potentially destroy the rest of your child's life. And then you'll have to deal with that deep regret. You'll have to deal with that child saying, Mom, why did you do this to me? You're the responsible party. It don't matter. Look, we all know. Listen. The whole thing with men and everything, we're going to discount that for a few minutes. It is your responsibility as a woman to carry your children. Yours. And your man, yeah, that's an extension of you. But when your man is causing problems with your children, you got to cut them out. That's your responsibility as a woman. And when all women are on the same page and when you got your triple goddess protected, you don't have to worry about it. You're not sitting there worrying. You're not sitting there saying all bad things are going to happen because of so and so and so. You see what I'm saying? So all of you mothers out there that feel some type of way about your children, you feel some type of way about yourself. There was a witch that was speaking on me every time her child come in the room. She giving them the evil eye and stuff, you know. And so for me, I know where the power is at. And if you're a woman, you don't have to use masculine energy to protect your family. Your feminine energy protects your family, no matter what. And you got to be strong. You can't be weak. You got to tell people, hey, listen, I don't have to explain to you. I don't have to give you any explanation. That's my child. That's their life. And I know that my child is going to be okay. I know that I'm never going to get that phone call that I don't want to hear. I know that at this point. That is what you have to say. You cannot allow people to come to you and say, well, this can happen and that can happen. And you should say to that person, I am not going to allow you to speak curses over my child or me. Because if you are harming your child, you harming yourself. Your spirit is suffering. You're going to have to deal with the negative backlash of that. Okay? So over here in Georgia, you know, there seems to have been a weight lifted up, but I know that in Georgia and in Kentucky, they banned abortion past 6 weeks. And a lot of women were very outraged about it because they were saying, hey, listen, you know, we don't find out we're pregnant that soon. You could be far beyond that pregnancy to be able to do that. But as a woman, your divinity does not lie in killing your children. And that's what a lot of men have tried to tell you. Actually, that has been going in reverse. It's been opposite of your divinity as a woman to do that. And if you're using it as birth control, well, then, you know, you're still not living in your true divine feminine. Okay. And there is no judgment, but it's just opening your mind to other ideas instead of you thinking, oh, well, you know, if I'm going to be a bad bitch or I'm going to be badass, I got to do this and do that. And no, you're just harming yourself. So I do offer I offer the triple goddess generational hex removers for people. It does work. And it works even months and months afterwards, because a lot of the things that were being blocked from you are now being opened up. Those channels are being opened up. Those doorways are being opened up so that you can walk through life and fulfill that and not have all that damn struggle. You know? So if you are having problems with your mother, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, because I've been there, done that, and I still made it. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what anybody in my family said. It didn't matter what my father said. It didn't matter what my mother said. What matters was me. That's what matters. That's what mattered was me. And what is it that I wanted? And you have every right to get what you want. You don't have to sit up here and accept less. You don't have to do that. You've been told that your entire life, and it's time for you to break out of that. So if you guys need to reach me, I deal with this. This is the first thing that I deal with. Okay? This is the main thing that I deal with. On a daily basis, I have to deal with this. I have to wake up with the prospect and the reality of my broken mother every single day. I have to wake up to that. And the fact that she won't talk to me, and the fact that she won't, but see, that's because of her own guilt. You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to live within that. You can wake up every day and say, and not even think about it. And that's what you have to do, but you can't. I don't feel that people can do it because that's a mind parasite. The problem with a lot of people is that they have lesions and leeches on their brain. So there's parasites, and there's parasites at the base of the skull. They hang out by the base of your skull. Okay? They hang out by those things, and they are constantly running a program in your brain. And you have to understand that your brain is the first line of defense. So make sure that you're taking care of your minds and you're not listening to that stuff. Don't listen to that stuff. It's just negativity. It's just, and you know what? You should listen, but then do something about it. Do something about it. Say, you know what? Something is not right. Don't just accept that as the first thing. Don't just accept and say, oh, well, this is just the way that it is. No, it's not the way that it is. Because if that was the way it was supposed to be, then you would have no desire for things to be different. Where is that desire coming from? But the only difference is that you don't have faith or trust in yourself to make that change in your life. And you got to do it. I don't care if your mama was evil and mean. I don't care. Stop letting that cripple you. It's crippling you every single day. That same spirit is on you. And with some of y'all, well, with most of y'all, not some of y'all, a lot of y'all, it is a literal demon that's doing it. And y'all realize that. Everybody always realizes it. Because even though you get up every day and you think positive, even though you get up every day and you do blah, 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 it's still, you ain't made no changes. Nothing has changed. Why? Why hasn't it changed? Because you haven't broken the cycle. You haven't used what you need to use. And that's why I use candles. I make candles, actually. And fire is the most cleansing. Fire is the quickest. Fire is in my opinion, it's a very powerful element to work with. And that's why I choose to work with all of the elements in my spell work, because I have everything related to earth, air, which is wind, your ability to breathe, water, and fire. So I use all of those elements, but I've noticed that, that's why I do a lot of candle magic, because it works. If I felt psychically attacked right now, I could light a candle and then poof, it's gone. Okay. Also, another thing, a lot of you need to quit being afraid of witchcraft. I do have classes on the website. I would love to start teaching classes on the website. What I'm going to be teaching you is yourself. And when you know who you are, then that is where your power is at. If you're thinking that you're just the background to somebody's foreground, and you're just a doormat and you're supposed to be walked all over and you're supposed to, that's your choice. But don't get mad at somebody else that wants something different and doesn't want that lifestyle. Because I should be able to wake up and go to sleep in my divinity. I don't care if I got a man or not. There will never be a man that will ever be in my life putting me down. Ever. I won't even accept it. Because when that person strays away, they have no excuse. There's no excuse for what you did. None whatsoever. So y'all got to start understanding why these men are treating you that way. And it's a spirit, even if they've never talked to your mother. It's a spirit that pushes everybody away. It's a spirit that pushes you in the wrong direction. All of that is done in spirit. So another thing, y'all got to clean out your womb. I know they're using those yoni eggs a lot, but you got to be careful with those because some of them have lead in them and stuff. And so you just want to make sure that you get it from a trusted, you know, but you actually have the internal ability to heal yourself. And see, that's what I do with my healings. That's why my healings are still on sale for $300, because we want to do a lot of healings this year, a lot of them. And because people do need to heal. If you're going to fight, and a lot of y'all, even though you got to be healed, you still have to remove that hex. But in order for you to remove that hex, you have to be at some point, you know how like when you play in a video game and you go and you know how you go and you get health before you can actually win the final battle. So we got to work on healing because next year is going to be a double crossroads. So next year is going to be even more amazing for a lot of people. Okay. So anyway, I love you guys. Love yourself, even if your mama don't love you, honey. Because, you know, there's a saying going out there and it's very ignorant that if your mama don't love you, ain't nobody going to love you. That's a curse. Don't listen to that. Because there's a lot of people out there that have mothers that don't love them. And they have people that love the fuck out of them. So you are valuable. You are cherished. If your own mama don't love you, the divine mommy loves you. If somebody did not tell you that they love you today, I am telling you right now that I love you. And I'll see you guys later. I got to go. Okay. Love, light, and blessings. Bye.